No one likes to be criticized. I know I don't. And when we get criticized and told what to do, told we're not doing it right, say it should be this way, this is better, you do it the worst way, it usually just makes us feel rotten. So today, one might ask, Jesus, what are you doing? You just seem to go after them with a long list of criticisms, one after the other. What are you doing? But before we get into it, to really appreciate it, we need to step way back and take all of the scriptures into account today. The first reading gives us really the Old Testament idea about God. And that, in contrast to the second reading, provides us a God that it looks like He's changed. But we don't believe that God has ever changed, that God is just perfectly love. God is love, loves conditionally, there's no conditions, there's no limits. It's all the time, no matter what we do. We can't stop God from loving us. So why the difference? In the Old Testament, this was kind of the infant stage of faith, the infant understanding of God. For after all, around 1800 years before Christ, the first person to know this God that we worship is Abraham. Not Adam and Eve, it's Abraham. Abraham becomes our father in faith, the title given to him in Scripture. And Abraham, through him and through the 12 tribes that he established, would begin to uncover and understand and learn how to walk with this God. And so an elaborate system of rules and laws came out. We talk about the Ten Commandments. The Jews had 616 laws. Read Leviticus and Numbers. My God, you just choke on all the laws and rules and what you could do and not do and what are the consequences. And bottom line, this is how they described it. God reached out to us in a covenant of love. But He expects something. He expects obedience and that we stay connected with Him. But what the Scriptures really say is not that God will punish us, and we even hear it in the words of God Himself, I will punish you, I will destroy you, I'll put your enemies against you. But that image, that's what was seen and understood, and basically I guess I'd say it this way. If you get out of step with God, you'll fall on your face. And of course, the only blame could be that God let you fall on your face. I don't think so, but that's how it's described. And actually, if a person never heard of God, the God that we worship, never heard of the covenant, never heard of the commandments or laws or rules, they couldn't get disconnected from this God. But if we do know about this God, and if we do believe that He's reached out to us in a covenant of love, then it behooves us to stay connected to this God. And when we get out of connection, we can say our lives begin to fall apart. Now, is that God doing that to us, or is that ourselves doing it to ourselves? It's kind of like the person who's allergic to strawberries. Terribly allergic. They break out in terrible hives, itching and scratching for days. So if they eat strawberries, is the strawberry giving them the hives, or are they giving themselves the hives? Really? They've done what they know their body cannot tolerate. I know my first pastorate, about 30 years ago, she had very severe diabetes. So she had to watch her diet carefully. She could eat a little bit of sugar, but she had to watch it. She loved Reese Buttercups. So one day she ate a Reese Buttercup and then finished the bag. She went to the hospital in shock. They thought for sure she would die. And she lasted a week and came out of it. A year later, she decided to have a Reese Buttercup and ate the bag. She went into the same shock. She didn't die. I don't know how or why, but she hadn't learned from the first time. That wasn't God doing it. It wasn't even the Reese Buttercup. She did it to herself. She really should have known better. And if we really believe this God is calling us to goodness and fullness of life, when we get out of sync, out of step with that, we do it to ourselves. I suppose it's nice language, but it's really kind of infantile language to say God is punishing us. But that's how one can perceive it. But we go to the second reading, And we get this incredible description. Paul's saying, I slaved for you day and night to the point of exhaustion to show you how much you are loved by God, to show you the goodness and blessing that is available to you. He said, even like a mother who's giving milk to her baby at her breast, that's the love that I've had for you, which is nothing in comparison to the love that Christ has for us. That's what we say we believe as Catholic Christians, as followers of Jesus Christ. And so in that big context, we have Jesus. Now, I propose to you that he's not just speaking as another person. He's not even just speaking as an educated person. He's not speaking as a rabbi, although he's called rabbi. In other places, he's considered just a layman, not a rabbi. But in any case, how is he speaking? Is he there just to say, don't do this, don't do that. If you do this, it's wrong. And that's what it sounds like. But what Jesus does today, he does as a profound spiritual leader. It would have never pleased Jesus just to criticize. I mean, that's not any testimony of Jesus in the Scriptures. He wouldn't say, stand up straight, don't bend over there, don't pick on your nails, don't do this. He wouldn't say that. What concern was it for Jesus to say you must act right? But what Jesus did in talking about the things of acting right was to look at something deeper. And today he goes for the jugular vein. He goes deep. In one of the scriptures, I think this week, or was it last Sunday, it said he observed the Pharisees in this leading house at table and saw them scrambling to be first. And then he reacted. And this is the Jesus speaking today. The spiritual leader, the man of profound spirit who would look at human behavior and then recognize the spiritual lack. What was wrong about it? There's nothing wrong with sitting in the first seat. Oh, there's two here today. Oh my God. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wearing long tassels and wiping phylacteries, and there's nothing wrong with having a title rabbi. There's nothing wrong with being called father. Jesus wasn't concerned about that. He was concerned with what's underneath that. Now, it's one thing, like, for example, people sometimes will come to me and say, hey, Perry, and their parent or somebody will get all frazzled over it. And I don't care if someone calls me father or not. I don't feel any more priest if they say father. I know who I am. I know what my role is. It's a nice title. I actually think it would have been served us far better in the church if we had called each other brother and sister than father. But, I'm not the man of history. Just how I feel. So if somebody forgets to say father or chooses not to say father, it doesn't offend me. But if I needed it, then I'd worry. How dare you not call me father? In fact, I knew a priest who just got ordained, and somebody called him Doug, and he says, excuse me? He said, Doug, and he says, my first name's Father. I thought, oh my God, really? So it's nice title, but it's not essential. Has really nothing to do with my inner core, just as any title for any of us. But if we need it, if it actually would bother us and bend our minds and emotions if we couldn't get that title, if that described my value or worth, then I would worry. And that's what Jesus is going after. There's nothing wrong with titles. There's nothing wrong with getting the first place. But if we have to have the first place, we would die if we were in the last place. So after this long list of criticisms about behaviors, he gets to the point. He said, the humble will be exalted. The exalted, those who exalt themselves, they will be humbled. And he tells us that truly the best way to be for the interior life of spirit, for there to be joy and peace and goodness and wholeness and connectedness and valuing everyone and everything in this creation to which we belong, is to be servant to all. And if we embrace deep within us that attitude, I am here to serve. I am servant to all. Jesus proclaims that will be for us, spiritually speaking, one of the healthiest places we could be in our lives. I remember the first time in the seminary, we were invited to go to all kinds of meetings and things so that we could get educated about what goes on in life. I'd never been to a 12-step program, an Alcoholics Anonymous program, but I went because that's what I was told to do. So I went. And I'm so happy that it happened on my first time I ever went to one. They went through the process of the meeting, and at one point, they were giving out the little, I forget what to call them, but they're little, not badges, but little, like 1 year of sobriety, 2, 3 years, 5 years. It's a little recognition of sobriety. So if somebody has actually managed to stay sober for a year, they get a little recognition, everybody applauds them. And they don't ever say their name, they say Perry L. or something like that. They don't say their last name. And they always say, hello, I'm Perry, I'm alcoholic, and they all say whatever they say. So this person gave out all the little badges or whatever they all, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, the recognition. And at the very end was the moment that just was such a blessing to me. At the very end, after doing it all, and they applauded the people who had been sober, this is what the person who handed them out said: thanks for letting me serve you. Thanks for letting me serve you. Thank you. You should be thanking me. I served you. You should be thanking me. Look at all I did. But this person said, thanks, and this is common, 12-step. Thanks for letting me serve you, because there's something very healthy about that. If we put ourselves and our needs always first, we end up very often becoming very isolated, very lonely. There's nothing worse than everyone recognizing that you think you're so much, you think you're all that in a bag of chips. Really. But Jesus says, no. You want to discover life? You want to discover love and connection and the fullness of being? Learn how to serve. Put others first. And I guarantee you, in that, you will find life.